Good morning and thank you for joining us for this special video report about rebuilding after wildfire. I'm Daniel Berlant, live at the CAL FIRE headquarters. Thank you for joining us this morning on Periscope. Obviously, over the last couple of weeks, our fire activity across California has not only been busy, but it's been very destructive. Both the Valley Fire in Lake Sonoma as well as Napa counties been very destructive, as well as the Butte Fire in Amador and Calaveras counties. Just some quick updates on those fires. The Valley Fire has now burned 76,067 acres. I want to jump right over to some video here shot the other day. This video really just shows just how destructive this wildfire was. That fire now 90% contained, but in its aftermath, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes destroyed. In fact, over 1,900 structures, mostly homes, but also commercial businesses, outbuildings, all destroyed by this fire. In fact, over 1,200 homes were destroyed by this fast-moving fire. It now is the third most destructive wildfire in our state's history. Now, over in Amador and Calaveras counties, the Butte Fire has burned 70,868 acres. It is 93% contained, so firefighters are making good progress, but that fire too, a very destructive one. Nearly 820 structures were destroyed in that fire. 475 of those were homes. So both of these fires incredibly destructive. The Butte Fire now the seventh most destructive wildfire in California's history. So for both fires occurring within the same week to be so destructive obviously shows just how dry conditions are and just how dangerous our fire season has been so far. But it's important to note that fire season is far from over. Now today we wanted to talk a little bit about the rebuilding process. For many, especially in Amador and Calaveras counties, as well as many parts of Lake counties, the evacuation orders have been lifted, many people being able to return back to their homes or at least back to their neighborhoods to begin that rebuilding process. I want to bring in Rick Lopes from the California State Contractors Licensing Board. Rick, talk to us a little bit about what happens now. What's the first step for people who've obviously lost everything?
Yeah, thanks, Daniel, for inviting us. The first thing that is really happening now for a lot of the fire victims is they're dealing with their insurance companies, and a real warning to them is to be on the lookout for public adjusters. The law requires them not to enter a disaster area for at least 7 days after the main part of the disaster. So people should be looking out for people trying to solicit them, let me negotiate with your insurance company for you. Those kinds of things they should be aware. They should also be on the lookout for people who are coming up and saying, hey, I can take care of it. Let me park a trailer on your property. I can rebuild this house for you. It'll be better than ever. And it's somebody who doesn't have a license. Part of what we're trying to do is to get the word out to the fire victims that these people are going to be out there trying to scam them. And we also want to warn these unlicensed contractors that the Contractors Board and other agencies are going to be out there looking for them. And if they get caught and they don't have a contractor's license, they actually can face a felony charge. Wow. Because this is a disaster area. So we're serious about going after these people. The warning to them is don't even think about coming into any of these fire areas and trying to get work if you don't have a license.
Yeah, here's some photos of just some of those beware signs about checking the license first. And I think, most people, the first thing they're going to look at is, the cost to rebuild. And obviously many hopefully have insurance to do that. But this is where scammers come into play and take advantage of it.
Absolutely, because many of us think when we're trying to buy something, we obviously want the cheapest price. So a lot of our mindsets can be like, I want to buy a TV set. You figure out the model you want, then you go search for the cheapest price. Well, all these contractors, especially the unlicensed ones, are not created equal. Just because somebody says they can come in and do it at a cheaper price doesn't mean you're going to get the same quality of work. And you got to figure out, how can they make money if they're so much less than these other legitimate people? Well, there's a lot of ways they can cut corners, breaking the law, and really putting you at risk. The last thing we'd want to see is these people being victimized a second time by these unlicensed contractors.
Yeah, and before we move on to some tips, if you have questions, ask those. Let us know right there on your screen. If you have questions for Rick about the contracting process, about the rebuilding process, go ahead and ask us those questions. But you did come with some tips here on what residents should do in that rebuilding process. Go through these.
Yeah, I'll go through these real quick. The first one is, take your time. Obviously, your lives have been really thrown into this evil. You want to get back to life as it was before the fire as quickly as possible. We would just urge you to take your time. It's a long, complicated process. Don't just run out and hire the first person who comes along. You want to take your time and do your homework and making sure you're finding the right person. And as I mentioned, you obviously want to be aware of the insurance folks, especially the public adjusters. But also, early on, you very well could be looking for an architect. If there has to be a design done for a new house, if you don't have blueprints from the former house, you may need to be looking for an architect. Make sure they're licensed. If your house is on any kind of an incline, a hill or something like that, you may very well need an engineer, geothermist, engineers to take a look at that. Those people are all licensed, so you want to make sure that the people you hire are licensed.
So it's not just the contractors, the engineers, the architect, all these others also need to be verified
And
first.
those are the first steps, even before you got a hammer to a nail. You got to get all those things taken care of, because this is going to be a huge project, and you want this house to be lasting for 10, 15, 20, 100 years. So you really want to get things done right. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about licensed contractors. In California, the law says that any job that's more than $500 in labor and materials has to be done by somebody with a state license.
Which isn't much. I mean, $500 in today's market.
You're not going to be able to do anything in any of the fire areas for $500. So you don't even want to think about somebody if they don't have a license.
So even if you're just rebuilding a porch or a shed in the back, that's probably going to hit that threshold.
Danny, it's a great point, because I mean, the tips that we're talking about are the same things you do regardless if it was a disaster or not. So yeah, there's a lot of these things, and detailed written contract and the next couple tips are really critically important for anybody doing any kind of work. The more details you can get into a contract, the better. There's less chance of a disagreement if you both know what you're getting. And you want to be down and as intricate as much as model numbers and companies' brands, things like that, because then they can't say, no, I was going to give you that. This way you have less chance that there's going to be a problem.
That's why the old adage, always get it in writing.
Exactly.
This is important.
The other huge thing that people need to be aware of is down payments. A lot of times you're going to get these people coming in saying, sign over your insurance check to me, or I need half the money up front so I can start buying materials. The law in California is very specific about down payments. It says that you can be required to pay no more than 10% or $1,000 of the contract price. 10% of the contract price or $1,000, whichever is less. So if you got somebody saying, I need half the money up front, or they say, it's a $50,000 job, I need $25,000 up front, that's not only breaking the law, it's putting you at risk, because once you pay them that money, you've lost your leverage over them. And many people, unfortunately, especially the unlicensed people, will take that down payment and run, and you'll never hear from them or see them again. So down payments are a big deal. Workers' comp insurance, that's the insurance that covers any worker who's on your property. So if they don't have workers' comp, they get hurt, they're coming after you to pay their medical bills. That's the last thing you're going to want to see after all this, is all of a sudden you've got workers and you're going to have to then pay for their medical bills.
Yeah, so these are some important tips. If you have any questions for Rick, make sure right now on Periscope you can ask us those questions. Just on your screen, let us know, and we'll make sure to ask them. So these are some important tips, but probably things that people don't really think about.
Well, a lot of times you don't think about the fact that contractors have to be licensed. There are about 300,000 licensed contractors in the state. And just that one simple step of hiring somebody who's licensed is a great guarantee for you. Only about 3% of the contractors in any given year get a complaint filed against them. And if they do, or if you have a problem with your contractor, you can file a complaint with the Contractors Board, and we can help negotiate a settlement. If we find that law has been broken, we can go after their license. There's potentially criminal cases in serious cases, but there's lots of protections that are built in to help the consumer. And especially in a disaster area, we're going to make an even extra effort to make sure these people get the information they need. The local assistance centers are set up in both fire areas. We have staff there from the Contractors Board every day with a lot of educational information. I'd encourage people too to check out our disaster help center that's on our website.
Yeah, and let's jump over to that here. So here's your website, and what's this website address again?
The address is cslb.ca.gov. cslb.ca.gov.
So that stands for Contractor State Licensing Board. Here's the site, and scrolling down here, this is the section we want to go to, right?
Exactly, and right in the popular pages you see there the Disaster Help Center. So if we just click on that and we've got links to a ton of information, English and Spanish. We also have a video here. It's about a 25-minute video that kind of takes you through the contracting process, the rebuilding process. So at the very least, we'd encourage anybody to watch that. You're not going to get absolutely every piece of information you need, but it's a great overview and at least lets you know that you got help out there and kind of the basic things you need to cover.
Now, Rick, if somebody comes to my home and says, I'm a licensed contractor, you have a site, and I assume it's on here as well. How do I check to make sure that they really are licensed?
Yeah, what you do is go ahead and go back to our homepage. All licensed contractors are required to have their license number in any ads or on the side of their truck, a business card, anything they give to you. It's going to be either a 7 or a 6-digit number. And so what you want to do is, even before you call somebody out, is if you find them by an ad, you want to look for that number somewhere there. You go to our homepage right here, the Instant License Check. You would type in that number, and then you'd hit search, and it would come up. Actually, let's just go ahead and type one. And just type in, if we can, we'll just type in the number 8. I can tell you that's our oldest licensee. Let's see if that worked. There we go.
So we just type in the license number they've given us.
So what we'll do is we can go ahead and scroll up here. I can tell you. So it gives you the company information, tells you that their license status is currently active. So if it's green, it's currently active. You can go ahead and keep scrolling up here. It tells you the different classifications. This is the information about the types of work they're able to do. You can go and, yeah, you've got bonding information. You've got also information about workers' comp, which we were just talking about. So here you actually have their workers' comp insurance company, their policy number, and all that. So there's a lot of information. So even before you call them up to come out to your house to give you a bid or to your property if you've lost everything, you want to go ahead and check that out. And that's a good first step to make sure that they actually are qualified and able to do the job.
And that only took us a couple seconds here to enter that number, and all this information is available for us to make sure, yes, this is who they say they are, yes, they are licensed, they're in with good standing with you.
And so you're ready. So they come out here, what you want to do is you want to ask them to see their pocket license. We issue them, it's about the size of a credit card, it's plastic, and they're required to carry it with them. So you ask them, I'd like to see your pocket license. Maybe even ask them to see a picture ID. It's not unusual. There's lots of John Smiths in the state, so this might be a John Smith trying to use a license of somebody else. You actually want to see their pocket license, see some ID. Be skeptical, because these people, chances are they're going to be fine and legitimate, but it doesn't hurt to ask, and you definitely want to ask about workers' comp, ask to even see the policy, call the company yourself, make sure, because another thing we see sometimes is they might get a minimum policy that covers a couple of workers, and they have 10 workers out there on your property, not all of them are covered. So you got to be very careful and go in with, to think about not trusting them, but you want to verify things and make sure things are what they say they are.
And it's sad that in a devastating disaster like this, that people would take advantage. But you see an increase in these scam artists during this time, correct?
And we've both seen this. We've both been up into the fire areas, and it's heartbreaking to see on one end because of what's happened. On the good end, as you see that the best in people, the people that are out there, the first responders, the firefighters, the volunteers. I mean, I was up there a couple days ago, and just to see all the people that are just giving up their time. So you see the best in people, but unfortunately, disasters bring out the worst in people too. These are people that see the disaster as nothing more than a way to make a quick buck. And that's why the word is important to get out there, not only to the fire victims that they need to be careful moving ahead, but also to these unlicensed contractors that we're out there looking for you. And if we catch you, there's a good chance you're going to state prison. Yeah,
so you guys are out there, you're enforcement's out there, but again, for property owners, they can access your disaster help center on your website, cslb.ca.gov, as well as this licensing at checkthelicencefirst.com as well, correct?
That's right.
I assume that takes us right to this same
It does indeed.
Here.
And we also do have a disaster hotline that's open up Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. And that number's on the website, but it's 800-962-1125. 962-1125. That's open if you actually want to talk to somebody, have questions that you don't get answered on the website, give us a holler.
So a lot of good resources. Rick, thank you so much. Anything else?
Those are the main things. It's like, take your time. I mean, there's a lot of people, a lot of resources out here to help you. Take your time, make sure that you do your homework and go forth as an educated homeowner, and you'll get through the process just fine.
But have a licensed contractor to begin with. Rick,
Absolutely.
thank you so much. Again, you can find all that information on their website, cslb.ca.gov, as well as check the license first. The rebuilding process, as difficult as it can be and as sad as it is right now, you want to make sure that you have those tips so that as you rebuild, you do so the right way. For more information, again, check out the Contractor State Licensing Board's website. And for the latest on those fires, you can always visit our website at fire.ca.gov. I'm Daniel Berland. Thank you for joining us for this special video report.